Well, it looks like we have a new document in the Idaho 4 case. Let's go. Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. So it looks like today we have a new document that dropped. It is titled Objection, and its elongated title is Objection to the state's motion to compel motive of defense of alibi or alternatively to bar certain evidence. So this is basically sort of like their response to the alibi demand. And I've skimmed through it. I don't really know exactly what they are saying in this. I've read maybe like 2 sentences and then decided to hit record before I continued. But it does sound like they're trying to give an alibi for why he's not the guy. I just don't know how concrete it is. I have no idea. So let's just go ahead and get started. Comes now Bryan C. Kohberger, by and through his attorney of record, Ann C. Taylor, public defender, and hereby and objects to the state's motion to compel motive of defense of alibi or alternatively to bar certain evidence. Idaho Code 19519 and ICR 12.1 require an alibi disclosure of a specific location with a specific location and witnesses to so testify. By statutory definition, Mr. Kohberger may remain silent, yet testify that he was not at 1122 King Road, November 13th of 22. However, in an abundance of caution, recognizing the court has authority to exclude witnesses, Mr. Kohberger has indicated he anticipates corroborating witnesses. Mr. Kohberger has long had a habit of going for drives alone. Often he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th, 2022. Mr. Kohberger is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Kohberger was at each moment of the hours between late night November 12th, 22 and early morning November 13th, 22. He was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12th through 13th of 22. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger is aware that case law broadens the definition of alibi with the statutory requirement of a specific location to more broadly include disclosure of information that tends to state the person claiming alibi was at a place other than the location of an offense. Mr. Kohberger has complied to the extent possible at this time. So they dropped the lamest thing they possibly could by simply claiming he was out driving around by himself. I'm not impressed by this at all. Corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 1122 King may be brought out through cross-examination of the state's witnesses. At this time, Mr. Kohberger cannot be more specific about the possible witnesses and exactly what they will say. The defense has been hampered by the state's own choices. The state chose a secret grand jury rather than the planned preliminary hearing. Had the state moved forward with the preliminary hearing, the defense would have had the opportunity to develop testimony through cross-examination and witness presentation. To develop testimony? I don't know if I like that wording right there. Okay. Instead, the defense has only received on July 27th of 23 a copy of the testimony the state chose to elicit. Review of such is underway. So they haven't even, at the time of this filing, have not even finished going over all of the grand jury transcripts yet. That's interesting. Okay. The defense had to obtain investigative materials from the state's investigative counterparts, the FBI, through an order compelling the state to provide such materials. The state made draft disclosures just 2 weeks ago. And when was the deadline for that? The 14th of July, right? That's been more than 2 weeks. The sufficiency of these disclosures is currently being analyzed. Corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 1122 King may be brought out through expert witness presentation. That analysis is underway. The defense has been diligently working to analyze relevant discovery materials and conduct its own investigation. Notably, the defense had to obtain a court order to receive relevant discovery materials. That delay hampers the defense investigation. The defense acknowledges a vast amount of discovery has been provided. Discovery is received on a nearly weekly basis. Yeah, probably more like hourly, honestly. The defense reviews and acts on the discovery as quickly as possible, including making appropriate supplemental requests for discovery. The state's motion is an attempt to force the defense to open its work product files and let the state peek inside. Okay, but I mean, that's kind of like how it's supposed to work, right? Like, aren't both sides supposed to be honest and open with each other about what they're going to be using as evidence, whether it be for or against what's going on? Yeah. The defense has stated all that can firmly be stated at this time. Okay, but I mean, maybe the state really is only stating what the state can state at this time, too. I don't know. This all just sounds like they're both in the same boat, maybe, and they're just trying to not act like they're both in the same boat. It's just, yeah, okay. This is not trial by ambush from the defense. This is the defense requesting information as quickly as possible, yet in some instances face the delay of requesting a court order to obtain information. I mean, yeah, there's no reason for them to have to get the judge to compel what they need from the state. Like, it should have already been readily available, no question, especially since they have had all the stuff basically that the defense is asking for forever now. Like, it's not like it's anything new. This is stuff that's already been filed and proven to have been, part of the case for, months. Yeah. It's all just a bunch of games, the whole system. The state continually uses those opportunities to attempt to force a waiver of speedy trial. That is a decision left to Mr. Kohberger and Mr. Kohberger alone. Mr. Kohberger was out driving alone. Corroborating evidence may come from cross-examination of state's witnesses. Corroborating evidence may come from presentation of defense experts. Mr. Kohberger is aware of and will comply with his continuing duty to disclose information. The court may exempt Mr. Kohberger from further inquiry. Mr. Kohberger requests such an exception at this time. Continued inquiry at this juncture delves into his case investigation as well as protected work product. In support of an exemption, Mr. Kohberger is prepared to provide further detail in an ex parte hearing with the court. Okay, but if you're claiming that you were out driving by yourself with no witnesses, I don't understand what the further detail could be. Okay, well, I'll admit that the motion to dismiss and this document have been sort of disappointing. I still have so many questions that need to be answered, and I'm still not seeing any puzzle pieces fitting together in guilt or innocence. I'm really just not. I mean, everything that we know right now is technically like circumstantial, honestly, because we're being told by the courts that they can't find an actual connection between Bryan and the victims. And a lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense. But I have to say, the fact that they are even responding with this whole, he was out driving by himself nonsense is pretty disappointing. I mean, honestly, a lot of people do that. Okay. My dad will get in his Jeep in the middle of a thunderstorm and not give a damn about where his phone is and just drive for hours in the country and not care. But he's from there. Those dirt roads and those gravel roads are literally like my dad's veins. Bryan Kohberger isn't from this area. And he's not even, where they're showing that the pings showed that he was towards like Johnson and that weird U-shaped drive that they say that he took. That doesn't seem like something he would just know, by heart. And, he's not from there. He'd only been there for a handful of months before this situation. So honestly, the whole I was out driving alone with my phone off in an area I'm not familiar with, no witnesses and no one knowing where I was and no one knowing that I was going to be going out driving and I don't have anyone to vouch for this. That's a very disappointing alibi because that's basically what they're claiming this is. So either he really was just driving out by himself and there's really nobody that can attest to that. And he's actually just waiting for cross-examination to prove his innocence just by the evidence alone. Or, this is just a tactic because he really doesn't have an alibi. I'll say again, this motion to dismiss that was filed and this document are very much lacking all of the confidence that has been dripping out of everything else coming from the state. And it's an interesting change of feeling reading these past two big documents. But let me know what you guys think about this new information. How do you guys feel about how empty it seems to feel? Drop a comment. See y'all.